Hello everyone, it's Editing Ivy here. This interview was a huge deal for me and I really wanted to add an additional introduction here. If you're not familiar with who Lon Milo DuQuette is, he's a living legend. He is probably one of the top heroes that I personally have in the occult community. He's written many books. He's written even more forewords to other occult books. The amount of work that he has done for the occult community is just otherworldly, and I feel so honored to be able to interview him. It was actually his student that reached out to me, that sent me an email asking if I would like to interview Lon, and it was one of those moments where I just had to sit in my chair and sit back for a minute reading that email. And so first I wanted to say thank you to the person who connected Lon and I for this interview, but it was one of those awe-inspiring moments where I get to interview one of my heroes. So this is personally a huge deal for me, interviewing a legend. And so I said to myself, if I'm gonna be interviewing Lon Milo DuQuette, okay, we're gonna do it right. This video is gonna be broken up into 3 parts. There will be timestamps for every single question asked, but part 1, we're gonna talk about his new book called The Tarot Architect. Part 2, we are going to discuss current occulture, the state of occultism in our community, his opinions on it, and also his legacy, what he wants future generations to know and any advice that he wants to give. And then part 3, I actually put up a post for my channel members to ask any questions that they have for Lon. So part 3 is going to be a rapid fire Q&A where I read out the questions from my channel members and we just kind of quickly go on down the line. So this turned out really, really fun. It was such a, surprisingly, I thought I'd be nervous, if I'm going to be totally honest with you all. I thought I was going to be really nervous because Lon is, such a hero in my mind, but this is probably the most relaxed I think I've ever been on a call doing an interview. So he's just a fantastic person. You can see the remnants of the interview. I've got the video exporting right now, and this is what it looks like when I'm interviewing someone. I just have a bunch of stuff all over the place, but I really hope you enjoy. This interview is a big deal for me. Please enjoy the interview that follows. Hello everyone, and hello Lon, welcome to the channel. I know my channel members were just ecstatic to know that I was able to interview you today, so welcome to the channel. So glad to have you here.
Well, thank you very much. It's my pleasure, Ivy.
I definitely, for those watching this, I sent Lon a whole essay of questions because it's not just my questions that we're talking about today. It is questions from channel members as well. Let's just dive right in because we've got a lot of questions here, and I really wanted to not only talk about your new book that just came out, The Tarot Architect, but I really wanted to celebrate your legacy as well. I know that might be kind of strange for you, but really coming from a fan, you are such a hero to so many people in the occult community, and I think that you probably have so much wisdom that you could pass down to the next generations. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. But starting with your book, The Tarot Architect, this is going to be interesting for me because I usually read the books in its entirety before I interview the author, so I know what we're talking about. But your book just came out. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. So could you tell the audience a little bit about your new book, and then also how it differs from maybe your previous works or other tarot books out there? I find that, authors write books because sometimes they feel like a gap needs to be filled. So I would love to just hear what you have to say about your new book.
Well, it's an experiential book. Literally, it's a program that's designed to take you step by step through through information, but then through little sidebar exercises and meditations. The second part of the book is to take you step by step into creating your own personal tarot deck. And the idea is to install the tarot deck inside the reader. So at the end of the program, I guess you'd call it, you are the same. You embody yourself, the same miniature working model of the cosmos that the tarot is. So you install the tarot, you plant the tarot like a seed in you, and then it goes to work in teaching you about the tarot. So there's a process where I give you literally almost blank forms for all 78 tarot cards, and then well, like that. Okay, there's a
Okay.
temperance card there. I used the form, the uncolored forms of the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic, but I encourage you to use whatever tarot deck that you fancy, because they all embody the same thing. So if you're not stuck with using any particular tarot deck, just get out a tarot deck, get out the book, and go to work and build that miniature working model of the cosmos. That's the tarot
Mm.
house, the house of cards, I guess. That is literally the temple of the universe. And we hear that we're the reflection of deity, that we're a reflection of the great all. Yeah, and we give lip service to it. Oh yes, I'm the temple. Well, put your money where your mouth is and build that temple that you're the perfect reflection of. And so that's what the book is about. It's actually personalizing the tarot on steroids.
You said installing the tarot within you. Is that what you mean with the title of the book, The Tarot Architect? You become the architect?
Yep. And in a sense, each tarot card is like a stone in the temple of existence. I would say the universe, but existence is even a bigger concept than just the universe, and we are that reflection of the singularity, if you want to call it. And the easiest roadmap to that, it's just the simplest, the most fundamental of Kabbalistic principles. So there's, so many people use the tarot for different reasons. And the most popular reason is for divination. You just want to have a little fortune telling device, and it's great, okay? And so most people probably use the tarot in a very fortune telling-ish way, okay? And it seems to work, okay? And I've talked to so many people that have no interest in magic, no interest in Kabbalah, no interest in hermetics or anything else, but they use the tarot and it works. And they readily say that it seems to draw out natural psychic abilities, natural clairvoyant abilities, and that it works in uncanny ways, and they have all sorts of stories that they say when reading for themselves and reading for others. Well, why does these or why do these 78 just paper thin pieces of painted cardstock, why do they seem to act magically upon the individuals that are using them? And the first answer is because the tarot is perfect. The 78 cards of the tarot, 22 trumps, 56 small cards, it's perfect. Now, beauty is perfect, and a lot of tarot decks are very beautiful. And mathematics is perfect. And tarot is both of those things. The not only that, but it's the music of the spheres. Each of the tarot cards has a musical note. Not everybody has utilized that in their tarot work. But it seems to truth, universal truth, reveals itself in perfection, and the tarot is perfect. And I mean, how many times have had some kind of personal issue of some kind, and you go out and you say, I'm going to walk this out,
Sure.
yeah, you go to a park or the beach or someplace where you're surrounded by the beauty of nature,
Hmm.
and the beauty of nature, the perfection of it, just all of a sudden your issue is resolved.
Yeah.
Get it, and you don't know why. Well, tarot is that perfection. And first of all, my book demonstrates why, taking it with just the very basic Kabbalistic principles. I call them the working tools
Hmm.
to build your temple. And then after we learn about the working tools and why the tarot and why each different kind of tarot card within each deck uh, is representative of this beautiful perfection, then the second part of the book is, okay, now create your own.
Mm.
Create your own around that scaffolding that I've just explained to you. So, somebody called it, oh, it's a coloring book of tarot. Yeah, well, well, yes, if you want to look at it that way. I don't care which way you come at it. Uh, by the time you get to the end, you've come to the same place. And
Sure.
so I'm really excited about it now. I've been in. I would say I've studied the tarot for 50 years. Well, maybe I've studied it but I'm really lazy and studies hard. Okay.
It
Uh,
is.
okay. I've been involved. Okay, tarot's been a central part of my life for 50 years.
Mm.
Okay. When I was encouraged by the good folks at Weiser, let's have a big sort of a magnum opus tarot book, because you're old. Hey,
Okay,
Lon,
rude, but
you're going to die soon, and we want your magnum opus, And the whole idea was, okay, let's just not talk about doing, let's do stuff with it. Let's do stuff from the very beginning. Let's crack out a deck of tarot cards, and every page almost you're asked to do something with the cards
mm,
and involve yourself in it, even if it's get out this card, this card, this card, and this card. Just lay them in front of you and just sort of glance at them as you read the following. Yeah,
sure.
it's as simple as that, or as complex as put them in this particular order, in this particular order. Okay, and there's meditations and homework and it's but I try to make it fun, try to make it funny. I'm just pretty proud of it. So
That was one of my questions for you too, because one of my favorite books of yours is Chicken Qabalah. Obviously, that's a favorite from a lot of people. And so I was wondering if we could expect the same level of humor or if maybe this book carries a totally different tone, but it sounds like it's going to still have your humor in it. So
it'll still be irreverent. It might be
great.
irrelevant. Uh, and it's not an obvious hoax
Sure.
like Chicken Qabalah, uh, but it's the same. Things are delivered with a silver bullet of humor,
Mm.
and because that's well, first of all, that's the only way I can do it, and secondly, it actually sticks with you uh, when you get the information delivered like that. So.
I would agree with that. I think tarot is one of those things. I hear it from people all the time. It's so difficult for people to learn the tarot. I hear it all the time. What's the best way to memorize the cards? And I think paired with your humor, and I know your teaching style from reading your other books, I'm really excited to read it. And I love the idea of being your own architect and installing the tarot within you. And you do, I mean, I was reading about the book a little bit further. You do talk a lot about, Kabbalistic themes, the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. Do you think it is imperative for the student to understand the tree of life when working with tarot? Is that something that you really teach in the book?
Well, yes, but I use the tarot to teach the tree of life.
Oh, sure, sure.
Okay, and just because that's how lazy I am. That's how I learned the tree of life, not by reading about the tree of life, but uh, step by step understanding the tarot and
Mm,
where that fits, uh, where that's projected upon my own uh, consciousness
mm,
journey. Okay, and so yes, tree of life's very important, and I use the tarot, my own tarot of ceremonial magic, and you can see how the. But to tell you the truth, I would have never, ever started by looking at that and attempting to
never go the other way. Yes.
Oh, no. It's I've got to plant the tree of life and it's got to grow in me. It's got to be that effortless.
That's a great way to put it. Plant the tree of life within you and let it grow. I really love that. That's good. I always like to ask authors this, what do you think you did really well with this book? I know that, being an author, I'm sure there's some criticisms that you have towards yourself of like, oh, I wish I could have done this better or whatever, but I would like to hear what you think you did really, really well with this one.
Uh, Organized it probably better than any other book that I've organized. Uh, I've always liked to draw the reader in so they don't know how deep they've gotten. Okay. And in a way, Chicken Qabalah did that. Okay, Chicken Qabalah did that. And my book on the Thoth Tarot, I was pretty proud of the way I did that. But this one, for some reason, the stars were right. Um, I I wrote it on this computer that I'm talking to you on in that chair over there through chilly winter's night
That's great.
with a little space heater, bundled up and the coffee over here. And uh, it, I won't say it fell into place because every page is like pulling teeth. Uh, but I think I succeeded, or I'm proudest of the way um, that I organized
Mm,
what I talk about first to do what I intended to do. Okay, and I didn't want to bog people down with learning stuff or memorizing stuff, but I had stuff to learn and I had stuff that you'll eventually memorize. But I wanted you to, instead of memorizing, do something and do it long enough that you don't need to memorize it. You've already branded it
mm,
in you, okay? Um, the the act of coloring a card, which takes place in the second part of the book, just think about it. There are specific color frequencies that belong on each card. So you have guidelines of what colors are most appropriate, what planetary colors, what elemental colors, things like that. And there's just a very bare bones image of the card so that you know it's the emperor, or you know that it's the high priestess. But then there's tons of other traditional things that could go on the card. And you get to pick whatever other things, doodads, attachments, amendments. I tell you, if you don't understand one thing on it, white it out and just put your own. Somebody I saw posted on an Amazon review, they already started and they did the Fool card, and it's absolutely beautiful. And on their Fool card, they put a crocodile.
Oh, interesting.
And it just fit. It looks so good. And so it's the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic customized by you, and but it takes a couple hours at least, at the very minimum, on each card. And as you're doing it with your colored pencils or your crayons or your paints, you're seeing, oh, that's the Hebrew letter Aleph. Well, Lon said to, color the back of the Aleph like this. And you don't even know you're memorizing something. You're spending a couple hours with one of those stones in your temple.
Yes. There are
Okay.
so many people that are kinesthetic learners too. You have visual learners, audio learners, and kinesthetic. And that's so helpful for people that need to physically get their hands on something to learn. So, yeah, I think this is definitely a lot different than other tarot books I've seen. Is there anything about your book that you really wanted to share with the audience before we move on?
I guess to encapsulate it is that, like the myth of King Solomon, who was, according to the legend, inherited the responsibility to build the temple, a building that was worthy to house the presence of the true and living God Most High. In other words, the singularity of existence, a house that would be the residence on earth of that omnipresent thing, okay? And in order to do that, he had to make it a replica, a dimensional replica of the totality of existence. In other words, if God, for lack of a better term, the big what it is, if it is creating, sustaining, and destroying the universe with one great note, a vibratory note, and that note was represented like a huge, eternal, infinite tuning fork, doing, let's say, an A flat. God is an A flat vibration, okay? Om is A flat or B sharp or whatever you want to say. And, but it's that note. Now, how do you get that note into a small area?
Sure.
How do you reflect that note? Well, you do it by working to turn yourself into a little tiny, perfectly tuned B flat tuning fork. So if the big B flat was going, all you had to do is make a miniature tuning fork that also vibrated in sympathy with that big B flat. And you wouldn't have to call it in, you wouldn't have to invite it in, you wouldn't have to do anything. You would, without it touching you or anything else, you would start to vibrate in sympathy with the big B flat. That's the temple of you. That's the King Solomon's temple. He tried to make it, okay, a perfect replica of the working model of the cosmos. And the tarot are the building blocks of that small tuning fork.
Great explanation. That is probably the best explanation I've heard for something like that. So I am very, very excited to read this book. I'm probably going to purchase it right after our call today.
Well, get a 6-pack of them and put them by the door when, as people come and go, just give them a copy too. That'd be okay.
Yeah, one for every room. That's fine. One for every friend, one for every family member. It's all good.
I think that's a great idea.
Well, I want to talk about your legacy in the occult community and also current occulture, if we're going to use that terminology, because again, I think you have so much wisdom that could be passed down to future generations. So I wanted to start. I know these are some really big questions, so please don't feel like you have to get incredibly philosophical and it's up to you. It's whatever you want to share about these questions. But really looking back at your time in the occult community, all of the books that you've written, all of the forwards you've written, all of these things, what do you hope that your legacy is going to be?
I am pretty much unattached uh, to it because anything I set my heart to eventually disappoints in one way.
Okay. Not the answer I was expecting, but
I'm not hoping for very much. Uh, actually, I have a classic adolescent boys, um, desire for immortality.
okay, but same.
But you know, eh, my dad was very nice guy, a very noble guy, a Freemason. Okay, and he was just good for goodness sake. Okay, and his magic uh, is the invisible legacy that he left, uh, just because of his ethics and his integrity and um, his wisdom. He was a flawed guy like all of us, uh, but in a way, at least in my heart, there's an immortality that went with that. He's long dead. He died when he was like 60, and uh, but he's not dead. He's not dead to me, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think just immortality is just the recognition of the gaining the consciousness of the continuity of existence. When I was a baby in a crib, believe it or not, I remember those thoughts. Uh, I tried to figure out, was I on before I'm on? Was I off before I was on? I can't remember being off. And I tried to, I had this hip disease that made me immobilize me for a couple years. So I was alone in my crib looking at the ceiling a lot, and I had wonderful thoughts and weird memories and things. And I tried to picture myself being off, and I couldn't picture myself being off. And finally, I just gave up and said, "Well, I've always been on. That's it. That settles it. Enigma solved. You're always on. There is no off." Okay. What I uh, am, I guess what I'm trying to achieve, even subconsciously, is to express my understanding that there is no off, and there is no off for you either.
Hmm.
And so that if I do that through staying alive in people's consciousness, that my thoughts may survive a generation or two, maybe after I'm gone here. Uh, uh, Maybe I'll have succeeded, but I've never in my life truly uh, had been obsessed with a goal. There's, I was a musician, but I have always done what I think is the only correct thing to do from microsecond to microsecond. I've never had a goal. When people say, have a goal in life and reach
Hmm.
for that goal, I always thought that's bull. You know, don't don't do. Yeah, I'm in love with the aimless winging of life of existence, and in a way that's a terrible flaw because it means from a practical point of view that I'm just a real bum. But I'm doing the only thing that I think is right for me to do from moment to moment. So the fact of what do I want to achieve with all of this?
Hmm.
I just want to get out of this present adventure without looking like a total idiot.
That's a great goal to have. I know you don't care for goals, but that is a good goal to have. So I'm wondering then, because you're sort of reflecting on how, you've never really felt off or you can't recall a time being off. And it sounds like you have a very sure way of looking at things. I really wonder how your perspective has evolved over time from the beginning of your magical practice and spirituality until now. How did your perspective shift as to what you believe when it comes to divinity, the great work, even the self? Has your magic changed over time?
Oh yeah, it's just grown less and less. Uh, uh, it's expanded out of the limitations of duality and uh, objectivity. Uh, when I first got in, I was a total in high school. Okay, in high school, the Vietnam War was going on, and I became, I educated myself, I guess, with the politics, uh, the international politics involved in that fiasco of a war. And so I became active in the anti-war movement and the civil rights movement. They were going hand in hand at the same time in the mid '60s, and uh, so that meant that I was had a very progressive social political consciousness, which is pretty damn materialistic.
Hmm.
Okay, but not worshipfully materialistic. And I came out to California in 1966 to go to college. But what I really came out to California, back to California, I was born here. Uh, what I really came out to do was just to attend the 60s. Okay. And in short order, I was singing in a folk music saloon in Belmont Shore,
Mm.
and I went in the restroom during a break, and a surfer kind of guy said, "Hey, would you like to buy some LSD?" And I said, "I sure would, you know." And uh, that night, I won't bore you with, I saw God on LSD or something like. But I tell you, it was the heavy artillery I needed to blast through that very limited materialistic, atheistic kind
Mm.
of thing. And if I saw God that day, I saw God in my eye in the mirror. Okay, and I
Sure.
and but I came away from that. It must have been really good early stuff, you know. I came away from that evening knowing that that discovery of myself was going to be the only thing worth doing with this incarnation. And from that moment on, then I started getting interested in Eastern mysticism and things like that. But that was a slow, gradual awakening. Okay, because at first I was very superstitious, and especially when I got into magic, I was still thinking just, bonehead superstition, a lot of Christian upbringing baggage. I was thinking that, oh, at first when I started doing pentagram rituals and stuff, oh, what forces am I going to unleash? And I was really superstitious about it. And in my diary, I did the pentagram ritual, and I had acid reflux, or and that has had to evolve. Uh, and there's two crisis points, and when you put those crisis points on a roadmap, the
Hmm.
first ones are there with the knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel in the East. That would be comparable to a very uh, a balanced opening of the heart chakra. Okay, that's a level of consciousness. Um, oh, they call it the Christ consciousness and stuff. But that's where you actually become who you are. Until then, you have no idea what is or is not in your best interest. Okay.
Sure.
And it's not a place you go or a certificate that you get. It's truly a level of consciousness. Okay, I'm now operating from this vantage point
Mm.
of realization. And the next one is the crossing of the abyss. Okay, where you actually make it up there to
Hmm.
uh, the supernal triad, they call it. Um, and so on those, you don't know when you've made a move up that tree of life, okay?
Hmm.
Because you take yourself with you. So you don't notice that you're changing until some other thing tells you, "Oh my God." Now, look at it this way. Would you trade your places with the consciousness that you have now with the consciousness you had 5 years ago?
Absolutely not. No.
How about even yesterday?
Ooh, no. It's always moving forward.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Uh, but you don't notice that happening. So my journey has been severe, severe moves that I don't realize is happening. Okay, and the Holy Guardian Angel, or that 5 equals 6 thing, uh, kind of is an exception, because when that hits, it's almost a physiological
Mm.
event.
Hmm.
For a while, you're afraid to wave your hands around because you're afraid you're going to knock stuff off the wall. Uh, that's a real live electrical,
Sure.
neurological thing. But gee, I forgot what the question was.
No, this was great. I think you definitely, yeah, you were talking about your evolution and how you see divinity and the great work and self and such, but I think you more than adequately answered that. And you also are getting so much more deep and philosophical than I anticipated this conversation going today. I'm loving this. This is so great.
Oh,
So thank
I
you.
do this down at the coffee shop
You
too.
do you just find a random person? Let's talk. Let's talk about the deep stuff. I love that.
About Corone Zone.
That's great. I want to hear your opinion on the current state of a culture, the culture of the occult scene currently. Do you think, and this is kind of a fun question, do you think we're currently in a renaissance, or do you think we're in a period of stagnation? Do you think we're in maybe something that doesn't really fit in either of those categories? How do you see it as different than, other decades you've seen?
I think we're in a magnificent maelstrom of chum.
Okay, that's a great way to answer it.
Uh, because it's so much is happening on a very wonderful level. It was truly an occult desert in the 70s. Uh, I had to have a friend who was going to England look around for anything by Aleister Crowley because there was nothing.
Mm,
Okay, and now we got just tons of stuff. Just go to Amazon, go occult, and you'll. And we have wonderful magical luminaries that are writing wonderful things. Not only that, things about past magicians from a new wonderful psychological quantum physics uh, point of view that's just absolutely exciting. It's never been this good, and
mhm.
we've got the biggest assortment of BS, and um, that's what I mean by the chum.
I assumed so. Yes.
And not only that, but a lot of the chum uh, is really well produced, you know, with wonderful AI art uh, and the trappings of it, the crust of it, the cleafoth of it is so distractingly magnificent and at the same time so completely devoid of a soul. Uh, that's happening too. Um, I don't even have a theory of why we're what it is that we're experiencing.
Hmm.
This, uh, we could say, well, this is the Kali Yuga, or
Sure.
or this is. I think Crowley kind of had it pegged with this the Aeon of Horus. Horus is wild and crazy and violent and blood this and war and vengeance and things like that. And at the same time, it's an awakening like there's never been. Oh my God, I'm not the earth, I'm the sun, you know. Um, and so the duality that we're seeing in today's occulture, as you might say, um, is like a combination of the effects of a major change in human consciousness
Hmm.
that is we're in the midst of. It hasn't occurred, but boy, has it begun. And I'd like to look at it this way. Crowley talks about three, within human memory, three major magical aeons. There's the aeon of Isis, just called that for convenience because it's the mother.
Hmm.
Okay. It's where human consciousness was centered upon feeding ourselves. Okay, so it was like an aeon of nourishment.
Hmm.
Okay, and so the matriarchies were really big, and woman was the most magical thing. Woman was God. Okay, she could replicate people. We didn't even have a 9-month attention span. It's just you just spring out of the woman. Wow, you know, and long after we found out where babies came from and everything else, and we started to figure out that, oh, the plants and stuff, and they won't grow unless we get enough sun, and then we changed our consciousness to accommodate. Oh, it's kind of a partnership between the sun, and then the patriarchies took over, and the penetrating rays of the sun going into the ground to warm the seeds, and uh, but the sun went down every night, and it teetered toward extinction in the wintertime. So we got obsessed with death. Okay, and we're still. That was the last aeon, the aeon of Osiris. Now the aeon of Horus is a ideally a nice combination of those two that bring forth a child whose formula is just continual growth, just growth. Okay? And we know the sun doesn't go down. We know the sun stays on all the time, just like my crib meditation. I stay on all the time. And so I see that the adepts of a magical aeon, their job is to prepare the way for the next aeon.
Mm.
Okay. Like St. Francis was a Christian, dying God Christian, everything else. But St. Francis paved the way for the next aeon, while the rest of his buddies were the adherents of the formula. The rest of his buddies were burning people at the stake and doing crusades, So the aeon of Horus, Crowley's things, the adherents are the wild and crazy manifestation of the violent change in the aeon, but the adepts of the aeon of Horus are here to prepare the way for the next aeon, which is the aeon of justice, okay, of Ma'at or Thamas or Thamet. Okay, so the aeons of one or the adherents of one aeon manifest the formula, and in this case, the formula is chum.
That's a great way to encapsulate the time we're in. I feel that too. I feel like we are awakening or almost on the brink of something, but we just don't know what the thing is yet. But I love how you say it, what was it? Explosion or a miraculous something of chum, however you put it or whatever. That's just a great way to say it too, because there is a lot of stuff out there, good and bad. It's certainly an explosion. And I think for beginners in particular, it can be really confusing because there's so much information available. So I want to ask you, what advice would you give to any sort of beginners coming into the occult community in terms of what you think they should focus more on or what you think they should focus less on?
Oh, gee.
I know that's a huge question.
First of all, if it's no matter what it is they're focusing on, don't take it or themselves too seriously. Uh, uh, don't don't be quick to attach. Um, my brother went to uh, had an appointment with Manly Palmer Hall.
Hmm.
Okay, the great,
Yes. Yep.
and he had an appointment, made an appointment, and uh, uh, I guess he had a wonderful meeting with him and asked him a bunch of things because my brother was a Mason. I'm a Mason too. Uh, my dad was a Mason. But anyway, and Manly Hall wrote the big book on, secret teachings of all the ages. And my brother asked him for advice. And even though they were both Masons and everything else, Manly Hall's advice was, oh, don't feel you have to join anything.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, I joined the OTO when there was only like 5 or 6 old Crowley members left. Okay. And I don't regret joining the OTO, but that's because the OTO is not your normal organization that requires anything truly of you, except that you learn what your will is and then do it, and then don't bother anybody. Don't bother anybody,
This is
don't wait.
true.
Yeah, don't wait for validation. Don't wait. Okay, you'll get it here. You won't get it there.
Sure.
And don't expect anybody to live up to your ideals. The only person that needs to live up to your ideals in the long run is you.
Hmm.
Everybody else is going to let you down if you attach yourself to an expectation of what their perfection should be,
Sure.
because we're all bums.
That's great. I know we're coming up on our time mark because I said about an hour. I don't know if you have an engagement right after this, if you're okay. I was hoping we could do a rapid fire round of questions, just really quick, where you give like a 1, 2 sentence answer. Do you have the time for that? I want to make sure we're not going over.
That's just the type of thing coffee is for.
Yep, drink the coffee, get the coffee ready because I have some questions. There's so many other questions that I personally want to ask, but I also, for those watching, I put a post out on for channel members only and had them put in their questions for you. So that's what I'm going to be reading here. I've got a list of questions. We're just going to do a rapid fire round. Whatever comes up at the top of your head, feel free to feel free to say anything you want.
Oh
Okay, here we
boy.
go. So, as someone who blends scholarship with humor and accessibility, how do you think occultism can avoid elitism while retaining its depth?
Um, just by doing so, uh, avoid have friends, have close friends, but don't get sucked into cliques.
A lot of people actually submitted this question. They want to know what your practice looks like nowadays. So I don't know if maybe you want to wrap that up in a 1, 2 sentence or if you want to keep it private. Totally understand.
What it looks like is non-existent.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's what it looks like, because it's something that's not seen, I guess.
Sure.
Um, as far as, do I get up and do a bunch of rituals all day and such, other than than just, the general things. No, no, I don't. I did that for many years, and but there's what a if there was a camera and we're looking at my daily life, it would appear pretty damn dull.
Okay. Good answer. Are you still playing music?
Since we were forced to move to Sacramento, well, we were forced to move, and Sacramento was, I haven't even picked up my guitar,
Mm,
except for, well, the pandemic put an end to my concerts and things like that.
hmm
The pandemic hit when I was in Chile, and
mm.
that's the last place I took my guitar, and I was stranded for an uncomfortably long few hours, but I thought it was going to be a long time in Bogota, Colombia, trying to get back because they were grounding planes and stuff.
Yeah. Oh,
So
wow.
I canceled my I had speaking and concert plans in Austria, and no, I haven't. The OTO is having its U.S. national convention in July, and my wife is trying to talk me into taking my guitar, but uh, I go through phases,
Hmm
so I don't know what kind of phase I'm in right now. I think I more or less uh, had to concentrate myself on giving birth to this
Yes.
for a while, so I don't know.
Fair enough. Life is cyclical anyways, so hopefully you can, pick that back up. Will there be any more Chicken Qabalah books in the future?
Oh, there's bound to be. Yes. Yes, the rabbi has been cited in several places around the world simultaneously. And
Love it.
yeah, there'll be a Chicken Qabalah 3 for sure. For
Sure.
sure.
Can you tell us about your time with Israel Regardie? I know this is probably a huge question, so brief synopsis.
Oh, well, I accompanied, Constance and I accompanied Hymenaeus Alpha, or Grady McMurtry, and to meet Regardie at his home in Studio City at the time. And we got there in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, and had champagne. Then champagne cocktails. He put a little sugar cube and everything. He was a very charming guy. And in about the first 5 minutes, we were talking. We both discovered that we were D-Malay as kids, the Young Men's Masonic
Hmm
organization. He was in the early years of D-Malay, and we had a couple champagne cocktails in us, and we both remembered the handshake and grip, and the word and such. He was the most charming and candid individual. I knew immediately I wanted to grow up to be just like him,
Wow.
and and uh, he was very candid. Uh, you know, immediately wanted to know, hey, did Aleister Crowley ever? And he said, sodomize me? No, no. The old boy never tried to bugger me. And
Great. Okay.
that was on everybody's mind.
Yeah, of course.
But anyway, and we both discovered that we had letters from people that thought that they were the incarnation of Aleister Crowley. And so I had a small collection of them because I was the head lodge master in Southern California, and he had years worth. And we were still getting them, and people saying, I've written a book and things like that.
Hmm
And so we said, let's pool it together. let's pool our letters together, and we'll call it Lieber Nuts. And so we started to do that,
Yeah.
and um, he from that moment on, I had his phone number, and I didn't abuse it, but every time I wanted to do something strange and innovative, like I wanted to make my Enochian tablets
Hmm.
in 3 dimensions. And so I'd call him up and I said, "Hey, do you think it'd be a good idea to make them in 3 dimensions? I got somebody who can cut the wood and everything." And he advised against it. And he says they're they're dangerous enough when they're flat. And I thought, well, maybe that's because they're all mad because they're all squished down.
Down.
And I did it I didn't follow his advice, but I went ahead and did it. And then I was working in a lab, a medical device company, and I was working in the laboratory part. And my boss, who really thought that everything I was into was very interesting, you know.
Hmm.
And she came into to the lab and said, "Lon, there's a Dr. Regardie on the phone." And it was Regardie, and Regardie had a patient. Okay, he was a psychologist himself. Am I
Hmm.
taking up too much time?
No, 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 no. You're okay. I'm fine as long as you're fine.
Okay. Yeah, he had a patient that he was treating that was convinced that she was possessed with a demon that she had created as a little girl to protect her from uh, abuse. Okay. And then as she grew older and started to mature, the dragon started to, or the demon started to attack her.
Mm.
And, but anyway, the first thing he asked, and my boss was listening, you know, who's this Dr. Regardie? And uh, he asked, "Can you perform an exorcism?" And because I'm a bishop, okay, it's a long story. You got to be a bishop to. Uh,
Sure.
uh, and I thought he was joking, and I said, "Well, yes, doctor, I can perform an exorcism."
Oh no.
Just going, you know, but he meant it. Okay, the woman was convinced that. Well, he was treating her psychiatrist. That's what the thing was. And the psychiatrist was convinced, from her professional opinion, that she needed the show.
Mm. Hmm.
Okay. And so, so I'd never done anything like that, but, I did have the apostolic juice, I had the credentials for a Roman Catholic because to get a first class exorcism together in the church, in the Roman Church, it takes a couple years
Mm.
to set it up, and but a bishop is a bishop is a bishop. Okay, and I have a Gnostic line going back to Peter, like everybody else does, and but anyway, there's that story. And
Wow.
when he died, he moved to Sedona, Arizona, and that's when he linked up for a couple publishing projects with Christopher Hyatt. And Christopher Hyatt was my first writing partner, and but when he died, we went through his effects, because Christopher Hyatt then became the Israel Regardie Foundation. And we went through the storage area to go through his things, and I found his file on Lieber Nuts.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, oh God, he only sent me on a couple errands. He called up and said, there's an Aleister Crowley down in Laguna Beach. He's got a book launching, I want you to go to.
Sorry, the exorcism you did it work? Was she fine afterwards? What was the resolution?
Yeah, she was fine afterward.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And one of our lodge members, who was a very adept, a Solomonic, he could literally conjure things into a black mirror, and I just assisted, okay, but and it was a wonderful show, and it was very dramatic, and I talk about it in my book, My Life with the Spirits, and but throughout her craziness years, her two children, who were near adult children, teenage and young adult, boy and girl, brother and sister, had been used to for years. As a matter of fact, all during their growing up, they had been used to taking advantage and manipulating their mother, and using her craziness to more or less run amok, okay,
Yeah.
with her own behavior. And so when she got herself fixed, went back to school to get her PhD, when she became sane, they couldn't handle it. And the boy committed suicide.
Mm.
He hanged himself, got another call about 2 years later, got another call, and it was from the psychiatrist. And I said, "Oh my God, is the dragon back?" He said, "No, but we've got another issue."
Oh my
And
gosh.
and so the boy hanged himself in the garage, and it was a failed suicide attempt.
Oh my God. That's so bad.
Yeah, and it was a more dramatic, acting out. He'd been acting out his whole life, and it was obvious that yeah.
Wow.
Uh, but anyway, that had happened just a few days earlier, and then his sister, who they had a complex relationship all of their lives too, was being is convinced that his ghost was attacking her, or uh, I don't know if it was an attack, but the ghost was giving her. She couldn't sleep because there were too many visitations from his ghost.
Wow.
And she wanted to know if we could exercise her. And so we went back, and the house, oh God, it was spooky. The garage was still everything as it was when he himself. And speaking of astral chum, uh, we went into the garage. I talk about this in My Life with the Spirits too,
Hmm.
um, but it was quite an experience, and very unpleasant.
Mm.
And but we exercised her, and then we didn't hear anything more. But that was almost an all night thing. We literally cleaned out all of his dirty sweat clothes and things like that.
Wow.
Any, anything that could provide a medium, ectoplasmic
Yeah.
medium for a disembodied uh, uh, entity to latch onto.
That is wild. That is so wild. That's one of your books I haven't read yet, Your Life with Spirits.
My life.
So yeah. Is this story one of those in that book, or is this something totally different? Oh, it is. Okay, so I haven't read it yet. Here we go, back to rapid fire. Let me get the rest of my questions back up. By the way, I really loved your answer to that last question, so thank you for that. So this is my channel member commenting. When I saw him present virtually last year at the LimaCon, he was pretty depressed at the state of the world. Has he found anything useful since, magical or otherwise, that is helping him to maintain hope for the future?
No,
Well, this just got depressing and more depressing. No, I'm just kidding.
no, it's gotten worse.
Oh no. Oh no. Just lie to us. Just lie.
We have to muddle through somehow. Yeah.
Yes, we definitely do. Will you ever write about your experiences with Grady McMurtry and Phyllis Seckler? What about your journey within the OTO?
I've probably written as much as I'm going to write about Phyllis and Grady. It was a great privilege to know both of them. Uh, Phyllis was my kind of official AA uh, link,
Hmm.
uh, but you know, uh, I did the kind of formal thing as long as I felt was magically uh, appropriate and necessary. Um, but both of them were wonderful, unique, colorful people who were very, very, very human. And I probably learned more from their humanness than any than any magical instruction, because most magicians are technically, in the final analysis, are self-taught.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
As far as the OTO is concerned, I'm getting together my thoughts because this is my 50th anniversary in the
Wow.
OTO, and there's going to be the national convention coming up in July, and I'm going to have to speak. And well, I always do. I always do at lunchtime when I always do. Yes, when everybody's in the same room together. Uh, so I'm probably going to gather those thoughts together, and but I haven't gathered them together quite yet.
If you could have met Crowley, what would you have asked him?
Did you bugger Israel Regardie?
I love that that's your question. I also love how quick you were with that too. There's no hesitation. That was your question
He
immediately.
said you didn't.
Oh my gosh, that's great. All right. Looking back on your life and your magical practice, what is one of the biggest aha moments that changed the course of your life and belief? Or what was the largest hurdle in your practice? How did you, quote unquote, get over it or work past it?
Well, the biggest hurdle has been me and my own, laziness. Um, so that's been the
Mm.
biggest hurdle. And but the greatest aha moment, I think the greatest aha moment was AA related, and has something to do with also the humanness of uh, my AA superior, okay, that I was just talking about a second ago.
Hmm.
Uh, and that was the unrealistic projection of perfection upon another magician. And uh, specifically, there was just an issue of personalities um, that I was writing back and forth. This is the days before email and stuff like that, so it
Hmm.
had to be in letters with carbon paper and stuff. Uh, Letters back and forth concerning the safety and the integrity and yeah, the safety of another individual that she was more or less blinded to that person's, uh, in my opinion, insanity. Uh, but anyway, and it was right in the middle of us talking about magic stuff and me passing the, fundamental tests and things like that, and writing in my diary, and she writing in my diary and things like that. And she actually said, "I'm going to give you an AA task. I want you to meditate on this until you agree with me." And I went, "Aha, I've never been more liberated in my life." No. No, I don't care if you're right, and I can meditate till kingdom come. Uh, and I didn't resign or quit or anything else, but I never sent her my diary again, and uh, she never expected me uh, and of course, it was only. Only a short time, then this individual was arrested, was imprisoned, I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you so, kind of thing. And it was a very serious and dangerous thing. But that's when I knew, yes, the magic that she passed through to me, the magic that she got from Jane Wolfe, and Jane Wolfe got it from Crowley, and the magic didn't leave her.
Mm.
Okay, she was still magical. I'm still her contact. The circuitry is still there, uh, but now it's my own responsibility, and I'm just going to have to do with it. I'm just going to have to plod along like I've always plodded along. And if I want to, if I if I realize that I've made another step, I'll just sign my own paperwork off from here on.
Sure.
And it was a liberating moment, and it was a gift. Okay, and if I didn't know better, I could at least fantasize that she did it all on purpose. The benefit of teaching me that lesson.
Of course. What practice has had the most impact on you as a magical practitioner?
The Gnostic Mass.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the Gnostic Mass. And for years, my wife and I celebrated the Gnostic Mass as regularly as we were able. Um, and it set a pattern. It's like music. It's like a wonderful symphony that it's different every time you hear it,
Hmm.
and that you pick up different things every time. And every time you pick up something different, it's more and more and more profound. So if your viewers want to look at it, it's Aleister Crowley's Liber 15, the Mass of the Ecclesia Gnostica Catholica, and it's the OTO's supreme uh, ritual for both public and private. It's
Hmm. I've been wanting to, I'm so interested that you said that because I've been wanting to attend one in my local OTO body. I just haven't gone there yet to attend a Gnostic mass. So now I'm even more inspired to see what it's like. All right, just a couple more. What do you think about following rituals by the book? Is intention really better than having the proper tools?
Well, by proper tools, do you need gold this and silver that? No, no, you don't need that. If you can't make a magical weapon out of paper, you can't make it out of gold.
Sure.
Um, but uh, learn learn the ritual as it's presented to you to learn, so that you'll know what you're doing when you amend it.
That's a good answer.
Yeah. So for years and years, I did, and I still do on a knee-jerk basis. The banishing ritual of the pentagram. But I made up another kind of ritual using visualization of Ganesha.
Yes.
Okay. Dancing around me. That's a combination of banishing the universe and invoking the universe, and it becomes an invocation too. And but it took me a long time to say, oh God, I could do this much more simply, but I had to know what it is that I was doing more
Hmm.
simply. Okay, if that makes sense.
It does. You have to know the rules before you learn how to break the rules. I
Yes.
say the same thing. Yeah. Yeah, definitely helpful to know. In all of your years of practice, what is the simplest thing you've ever done to keep your magic alive in times of stagnation or rest?
Just not worry about whether my magic has stagnated.
Easy. That is a very easy answer.
When I say I'm lazy, I'm really lazy. I'm I'm almost too lazy to be depressed about being too lazy. So
You know what? That's the motto. That's what we all should embody, honestly. Laziness, just flying by the seat of our pants, seeing what happens.
and shortcuts,
Yeah,
yes.
shortcuts. That's great. Well, we are totally out of time. So I know that there are other channel members that ask questions, and I just thank you so much for answering. Kind of felt bad sending you this giant essay of all these things that I wanted to get through, but I had told I can't remember if I told your student this or someone else this, but I said to myself, if I'm interviewing Lon, then we're gonna do it right. And I really wanted to ask you all of these really meaningful questions. I think so many people are gonna get a lot out of this conversation today. So thank you, Lon, for being here. Really appreciate it. I'm going to link his book in the description box below, as well as you have actually, if you don't mind plugging, don't you? You have a YouTube channel as well where you go live pretty often?
Yeah, well, every day, every day I do a half-hour show on Facebook, and then it is uh, posted, forever on YouTube, and it's Arcanum something. If you just go on my YouTube and the last 24 hours, you'll see the latest one. But they're kind enough uh, to post them because they know I'm too lazy to post them myself. And uh, they're very good about it. And that's probably where most people see it. So the one I did this morning is probably being posted right about now on YouTube. So
I was wondering if you were the one that, because I came across that YouTube channel and I didn't realize, I was wondering if somebody else was posting that for you or if that was your official YouTube channel, but it sounds like somebody else is kind of helping you in that department.
they're doing it with my full knowledge and blessing, and they're doing it. I told them they do it as long as they didn't monetize it or
Sure.
try to, yeah.
Sure, that's great. I will have that all linked in the description box as well. So thank you again, Lon. Thank you for everyone watching this video, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye, everyone.